Low-quality fans of a high-quality Bruins team, welcome back. We are about 2 hours from puck drop against the Sharks, but I wanted to talk to you about something. I want to talk about prospects just for a minute, because I feel like it's necessary to do a little update, because there's a bunch of them that are pretty interesting, pretty neat. And that's kind of the concept of this video. I did not choose our best prospects, although we're going to talk about really most of them, if not all of them. But I did choose the ones that I find most fascinating, ranging from some that are 3 to 4 years away, and then some that I would expect to see in the NHL at some point over the next 18 months. They are ordered very poorly, from least interesting to most, but that's very abstract, and I would really prefer people not be like, you think this guy's more interesting than this one? Like, maybe, kind of, sort of, but probably not a lot, so don't get too hung up on that. I believe it's a total of 13 guys that we are going to talk about. So without further ado, like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. No, let's talk about the two that are the easiest to talk about, but also the ones that you have the least security in what they're actually going to be someday for the Boston Bruins. Because the Providence Bruins are benefiting from some pretty good goaltending. And this first section, which is very quick, will be about both of them. We have Vashek and we have DiPietro. Vashek being 24 years old, DiPietro being 26. They have backstopped the Providence Bruins to a 13-3-0 record. They are smoking fools. Vashek boasts a 1.7 goals allowed average and a .942 save percentage in 7 games played, while DiPietro, 9 games played, has a 1.89 and a .938 save percentage. That is nutty. And goalies are voodoo, right? Like, we saw DiPietro in camp. He was supposed to push Korpisalo for the job and may still well be doing that for the backup role, because Korpisalo has had a less than stellar start to the year. He's had highs, he's had lows, but the lows have been fairly low and the highs not that high. Going into camp, a lot of people were talking about DiPietro pushing for that job, and I was one of them. And I think one of the hardest things about talking about goaltenders, small sample sizes will kill you. Consistency is hard to find. Goalies are voodoo. I mean, we just know this to be true. And we've created all these ways to look at goalies that try to tell you if they're actually performing well past just their save percentage. Now we have the goals saved above expected, and they try to take into account the angles and the player positions and all this kind of stuff. It's still extremely flawed. And in fact, hockey, analytically, is much like baseball, where there's so many flaws in the actual process to find out if someone's going to be a professional. I guess you could really say that about most sports. I feel like basketball, you'll still run into surprises here or there, and it's not rare to run into surprises, but I feel like you have a better handle on who's going to be good/great, and then the other ones you just try to, they mix and match, and some of them pop, some of them don't. But when it comes to NFL quarterbacks, when it comes to baseball, particularly hitting, when it comes to hockey, anywhere, you just don't friggin' know, man. You don't know. You do your best, and hockey goalies are by far, I think, the hardest part of all of this. Projecting them, there's a reason that they don't go in the first round all too often, that you don't see a bunch of goalies drafted for... You know how in the NFL, they're like, the quarterback is the most important position. They're not shy about that. They don't pretend it's something else. They're like, you need the quarterback. And so the first round is littered with quarterbacks and then linemen. That's not fair. There's plenty of skill positions. But you know the point I'm trying to make here. And yet in hockey, it's like, well, you got to build from the net out, but no one wants to take a goaltender with a top 5 pick because you just have no friggin' clue. I'm making this point too long. Like, you guys get it. Goalies are voodoo. So going into the preseason, DiPietro has this chance. He doesn't look good in the preseason. I saw plenty of people think that he should have usurped Korpisalo already, but that's kind of going backwards because DiPietro, again, in camp, just didn't look that good. I don't even know if you were to call him up right now. The guy has nearly a .940. Call him up right now, and if he would look good at the NHL level. I don't know. The point I should be getting to is DiPietro is now stringing together multiple great seasons in the AHL, and at some point will get a chance at the NHL level. I think the Bruins want to make sure that their defensive core is doing well before they do that. Zajac, also really good. Now, this is 1 year. He's had some success in previous leagues, but he's looked stellar. Athletic, tracks the puck well, decent rebound control. There's a lot to like about his game. So I would mark both of them as pretty interesting, especially when the backup job is going to be available. Korpisalo is not going to stay there forever, and he's going to be the first one gone as far as goaltending goes for the Boston Bruins. So it's a curious case to see if either of them will make their way up to the next level. The next guy I want to talk about, and I should do this quicker than I just did that one, Loke Johannson. Gosh, I do this every time I talk about him. 19 years old, left shot defenseman. He's 0-0 for 0 in 5 games in Providence, and he had 2 assists in 9 games at the ECHL level. He's in his first year of his ELC, which I think is technically his second year, but it slid back a year. I don't understand why they signed him as early as they did to that, because he was under team control for far longer than this, and maybe it had something to do with getting him over to North American ice. I'm not entirely sure, but he's still a couple of years away, and that was obvious when they did sign him. What I like about him, and the reason he's so far down this list, are the same thing. This is a list of intriguing prospects. What I like about him is this guy's so friggin' simple. It's simplicity. And when it comes to defense, when I want to trust a guy, like, I don't want all 6 of my defensemen to be like this, but I like a guy who I'm like, I put him out there, I know exactly what I'm getting in every way. His game is built off of simple, clean plays up the ice. He doesn't shy away from joining the rush. He doesn't shy away from shooting. He's just not offensively gifted or talented like that. He's not a schlub, but he's just not gonna do some Cale Makar shit on you. Defensively, he's good. He's steady. He's in the way, active stick, plays the boards well, throws his weight around, tries to clean the front of the net. There's a lot about his game that is just simple. Hey, this is your job. Okay, my job got done. What's next? Okay, my job got done. What's next? He's not going to predict a play going 3 or 4 passes up the ice and find the perfect space. He's not going to create things out of thin air. It's not going to be one of those players. It's just going to be one of those guys that they put on the ice, and you kind of forget he's out there. And at the end of the game, at the end of the season, he's like, oh, he's plus 30 on the season. Wow. Just on the ice for some good stuff happening. It's funny that he's on a list of intriguing prospects, but when it comes to being 19 years old and being highly responsible in every area of the ice and just waiting for the rest of the game to catch up, I really like him. And I am hoping that he's a guy that makes it to the next level playing a similar type of game. I want to have that second pairing guy or third pairing guy I can put out for any shift and just trust that I'm going to get the same thing virtually every time. Maybe that makes me kind of simple too, but I dig it. So Loke is another guy that I want to put on everyone's radar. He's already been on your radar. He spent more time in the ECHL, obviously, this year than in the AHL. He's still trying to catch up here. Partially the reason he's in the AHL is because of all the injuries and Aspero having to come up. But at the end of the day, I think he deserves to get a look up there and see how he can perform. Through 5 games, no points, but as long as he's playing a responsible game, we'll see. The next on the list, and I did start numbering them here, at number 10. We probably just should have done some honorable mentions, but at number 10, I have Vashek Blanar. I never actually figured out how to say this guy's name. I've been told it's Blanar, not Blanar. But he is that, I want to say he was the 4th rounder in the draft, that none of us had heard of, and he wasn't on Elite Prospects, and everyone was very confused as to who the hell we just selected. He's 18 years old. He's a left shot defenseman. He's got 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points in 16 games played in the U20 National League in Sweden. But he is expected to be in the NCAA next year. He's looking at a couple different schools. That's the way the reports go. Look, this guy, I'm going to guess 4 to 5 years away. Like 4 minimum, right? He's got a ton to work on. All over the ice. Right? It's not, if we're talking about Loke being like, oh, he just, everywhere on the ice, you kind of get this consistent, Blanar is not that. The reason he's on this list, though, is because the way he operates, he's got a lot of confidence. He's clever with the puck. He handles it well. He's not afraid of getting mixed in with the offense, and he's a ton of confidence to go around a guy and then try to rip it, which I obviously enjoy. That also leads to Lohrei-esque mistakes on the blue line that go the other way, champ. Please don't do that. High risk, little reward plays are absolutely part of his game. He's okay defensively. Honestly, it's probably the weakest part of his game, which is tough for a defenseman. But again, he has a ton of confidence, loves to lay the body, loves to get mixed in with where he thinks the play is going. He's redirected pretty easily, I would say. If he runs into a very shifty forward, it's not impossible to get around him. But his skating is solid. His shot itself is quick, it's heavy, and he's just not afraid of any portion of the game. He has a ton of raw talent. His decision-making, kind of gross at times. But as far as, man, this is kind of fascinating. He's a guy that you watch through a whole game, and you're hitting your head against the wall a couple of times, and then he has one shift where you go, whoa. I really like Blanar. He's many years away, but I think he is a name that will jump back up on the radar fairly quickly for fans. Once give it 2 years, and then like the fan base is all going to know about him in some way. I think he's going to be that kind of guy. At number 9, we have Cooper Simpson. Recent draft pick, 18 years old. He plays both wings, but he's a left shot. He's got 10 goals, 17 assists for 27 points in 21 games played in the USHL. He's on pace to do something very similar to what he did last year. He wisely decided to opt out of going to college this year and went back to the USHL for more time to develop his game at the lower level. I was really happy about that because he is a bona fide sniper. He has a lethal shot. I mean, he has a shot that NHL goalies right now would go, yeah, that would beat me once in a while. That's a hell of a shot. He does have some great hands. He can go around a guy. He's strong offensive IQ. He can think the offensive possession well. You've got a real prospect with this guy offensively. You really, really do. I do worry about his skating being good enough for higher levels. I've seen some notes. Even Elite Prospects has this thing about him being an explosive skater. Kind of disagree. Like, once he gets going, yeah. But I wouldn't say he bursts away from defensemen well. I wouldn't say he gets up ice particularly quick. And, of course, he's got plenty of time to develop this further. But, I mean, 18 years old, there's going to be some growth there. I didn't also love the compete level I saw from him previously, although when I've checked in on him this year, I haven't seen that being an issue. It's easy to look like that when you're way better than the guys around you at your level, but when you're moving up to the next level, you really have a lot to prove. I think this is going to be one of those players that has plenty of doubters. I'm not doubting him, but I am curious. It's one of those, like, I'm not putting my name on a prediction for where this guy ends up. That would be foolish. I would be surprised if he was truly a top 6 guy after everything's said and done. But there's so much raw about him, and he has such tantalizing attributes, particularly the shot, that I want to believe he could be a scoring threat at the NHL level. He's going to go to, I believe it's the University of North Dakota where he's supposed to be going as well. We're going to talk about another prospect who's there right now. If he could do what he's doing now at that level, woof. He's going to become a very popular prospect very quickly. Because really what he relies on at this moment is, A, his shot, B, transitioning up ice and having that open space because of the transition, or C, a really eager defenseman that he can handle the puck around and finish. Right now, he's harder to knock off the puck. It's just really easy to see how at the next level, he might not be so difficult to knock off the puck. Cooper Simpson has a ton of question marks, but because of his attributes, it's a guy you do want to follow. It's funny, I won't follow him as much this year because I expect him to just put up gaudy numbers in the USHL. I'm going to be way more interested in what he does in the following year, which actually is a similar thing for Yemelyanov. Kirill Yemelyanov, 18 years old. He's a center / left winger, but he's playing center. He's currently in the MHL in Russia, which is a prospect league below the VHL and the KHL. The KHL, of course, you know as their professional league. He has 13 goals, 10 assists for 23 points in 24 games played. with 29 penalty minutes. He plays like you'd expect a 1980s hockey villain from Russia to play. He's physical, skates like the ice kidnapped his wife, and has pretty much one speed, which is full throttle. It's so abundantly clear to me that he wants to win, and aggression comes out of that in all three zones of the ice for that need to win. Nothing to dislike about any of that. The goal for him, though, we're going to have this whole conversation about how the Bruins try to strong-arm prospects into one thing that they might not be. There's a reason that the Bruins like this guy. And it's because his 200-foot game is pretty stellar. I really like it. He's been decent in the dot. I don't have his full numbers because they're actually kind of hard to track, but he's been good in the dot from what I can tell. He's good defensively, energetic defensively, gives plenty of effort. He's good offensively, has a nice shot, has good hockey IQ, has good vision. They want him to be a guy who can play in every scenario. Power play, penalty kill, 200-foot game, put him in the crunch time, put him in when you're leading. That's who they want this guy to be. He is also years away. My guess would be he spends a couple of years in the Russian system. And I believe the Bruins don't have to worry about timelines because of that they can just kind of hold on to him until he's ready to come overseas. I would be surprised if they tried to bring him over earlier, but I've been surprised before by the paths that they try to have prospects take. So we will see when it comes to that. I think he needs at least 3 years, probably a little more than that. But there's a lot to like about his game because of the pure effort, but there's enough skill there that makes you go, he's not really a fourth liner. Obviously, again, projecting somebody like this right now is kind of a fool's errand because there's just so much rawness to his game. And his physicality is really there. He gets spicy with other players, and he isn't afraid to really mix it up in a lot of different ways. I'm guessing he's going to end up being kind of a rat as well if he gets over here. But definitely a guy that I think you'll hear his name coming up more and more. Speaking of more, Will Moore, 18 years old, center, left wing. He's at Boston College along with a few other guys right now. He's 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points in 13 games played. It's a quiet but effective start to a freshman year at a hockey school, a school where there's a lot of pressure on you to perform. What puts Moore on this list for me is really 2 things. He does all the little things well. Not elite, but well. He can handle the puck, feed teammates in good positions, understands the flow of play, and doesn't often get caught watching. Typically, he's maneuvering himself to get involved in some way. He doesn't drive his line, I would say far from it, honestly, but he does play a practical and effective part in that line's success. The first year in the NCAA can be turbulent, and Moore has kind of met that with a very calm and effective game. He's not over-exerting his own abilities. He's not reaching across the aisle, really. He's doing what he does well and trying to build on that. And I got a lot of respect for the way he's kind of approaching it. Because, again, it's a pretty big deal to make this leap. The second thing that I really, really like is the way he wants to play the game. Sometimes I talk about players who are home run hitters in the NHL. Home run attempters in the NHL. And Max Domi is a guy that comes to mind for me whenever I talk about this subject, because it's a guy that in the offensive zone or even in the defensive zone, neutral zone, wherever, he's looking at the play and trying to go, all right, what gets us to a high danger chance the fastest? What play can I make right now that gives us a chance to score? No matter how unlikely that play is to come to fruition, that guy just does it. The amount of pucks you will intercept from Max Domi at a professional level is kind of crazy. He's just an optimist. Let's call him that. He's optimistic. Moore, because of the way he wants to play behind the opponent's net, he wants to play down low and he wants to facilitate from there. In my mind, I'm like, that's a lot of risk, because you missed that, and it's going the other way with you and your other forwards down low, especially when you're holding the puck down there and trying to like create from there. So I kind of expected to see him do more of this home run hitting attempt kind of stuff. But that really hasn't been what I've seen. He does like to work the puck low, which no coach is ever going to tell you that's a bad thing. And he likes to orchestrate the offense from that position. But he's good at it. And he doesn't take unnecessary crazy risks. He's not constantly clearing the puck out of the offensive zone trying to make a pass that isn't there. He's simply wanting to put himself in a position where the goaltender is uncomfortable. That's an offensively minded player. The rest of his game as well. I mean, he's just a consistent guy. He does need I think he needs the game to slow down for him a little bit more, which, I mean, very reasonable. 13 games into your first collegiate season. Hands need to catch up. Brain needs to catch up. That's fine. There's still a lot of development to happen there. I don't see this guy as like a top 6 player in the NHL someday. I'd actually be genuinely surprised if he ever made it quite that high. But he does have a lot to bring to the table as far as a calm, effective, intelligent approach to the game. I am expecting over the next 18 months, this will be one of the players that grows the most. He'll be a guy that you just kind of keep seeing, oh, wow, nice plays. He's part of good teams. He's part of good units. His line mates are going to get better. That's how I kind of see Will Moore panning out over the next couple of years. My bet is this time next year, we're talking about a really nice start to his sophomore campaign. He certainly has a couple of years in college to go. Which brings us to our next guy, which might be more of a debate about a couple years in college, which I don't like this debate. I think he needs a couple years. I absolutely do. Will Zellers, 19 years old, left wing / center, easily one of the most interesting prospects in the system. And had I done this list a month ago, he likely would have been more of a like honorable mention here. And the reason being is because despite a stellar year in the USHL last year, scoring 44 goals to go with 27 assists and earning the Player of the Year award from the league, there was a lot of talk about how his game would struggle to translate to the higher levels. Much of that talk was filled with doubt. The doubt comes from a couple of areas. First of all, he's 5'11", 180, so he's considered on the smaller side. His skating is viewed as average, I think, at best, and a lot of his scoring had come from his ability to handle the puck deceptively and move into shooting positions on unsuspecting defenders. Now, obviously, that doesn't sound like a bad thing, but it was dependent on a USHL level of defense. He could easily maneuver his way around those defensemen, but wasn't displaying something that looked easily transferable to bigger, stronger, faster defenses. So, to start the year as a freshman at the University of North Dakota, who is currently ranked 6th nationally, they're 8-4-0, by the way. He has 7 goals, 4 assists in 12 games as a freshman. Good enough for 2nd on the team in points. Now, 4 of those goals are on the power play, and he is a -1 on the season at even strength. But this is a fantastic start for a guy who had more than enough pro scouts doubting his ceiling. I don't know what his true ceiling is. I really don't. His offensive game is starting to look like it has a true top 6 talent in there. Lower body, there's some concerns. Truly skating at an NHL level, creating space for yourself at an NHL level. That's one of the bigger things that you'll find with younger guys like Will Zellers, who was it? Cooper Simpson. These guys who, they create space for themselves at these lower levels. That's really hard to do at the higher levels. Can they do it? You kind of got to prove it. And so far, Zellers is doing it, man. He has looked filthy in moments. His offensive ability, his hands, his shot, every part of it is great. And it's easy for people to go like, look at his point totals from the previous league. Of course, go back and look at who else has those point totals. You'll find some. Like you'll find the Celebrinis and guys like that who just roasted these leagues and have similar numbers. But then you'll find a bunch of names where you're like, who was that? It's just part of it, man. Will Zellers had a lot of doubters. I was really curious to see what his start to the collegiate career would be. And so far, he's been so good that people are speculating that he'll be in the NHL by the end of the year. Like, this season's going to end. He's going to sign his ELC and be up with the Bruins. Absolutely not. I would be flabbergasted if they did that. Just out of my mind. I wouldn't even be mad. I would just be shocked. But 6 feels way too low for him because he is fascinating as a prospect. What a trade deadline last year. Seriously. Woo! All right, at number 5, Don's Locmelis. The reason that I have him so high is because I'm biased as fuck. I'm wearing his jersey right now. I love this guy. So he did start this year much closer to what I expected, because obviously last year he plays a few games in the AHL after coming up from UMass. So he was averaging 2 points a game when he first came up. That wasn't going to continue. That was just a really hot streak to start. But he's a personal favorite of mine, as you know. He has 16 games played in the AHL this year. 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points, 2 shorthanded goals, a +7 on the year. I've talked about this guy so much that I don't want to overdo it here, okay? If Fabian Lysell, who we're going to talk about shortly, is a player who builds beds in a coach's doghouse, Locmelis is the guy who shares the pillow with him at night. Hockey IQ above all else for him. He's trusted in every situation, constantly makes the right play, and does it deceptively to his opponents. He's good on the power play. He's great on the penalty kill. He's good in transition. He's good at 5-on-5 defense. He is just simply good. He's a good hockey player. Now, the point totals, I don't know if they'll ever be there. And look, when he was drafted in 2022, you could go back to this video. I love the kid, and I said, I think he's at least 4 years away, right? Like, we're not rushing him to the NHL. He's 21 years old. There's no reason to push him into the NHL right away, and he is still waiting to catch up in a couple areas. He's not physically elite in any way. He's not going to have an easy time with the big bodies in the AHL or the NHL. His fight's there. He's good at the board battles. He does a lot right for his team. You want him to kind of be a Swiss Army knife that's going to play in any scenario and be well trusted. Coaches love this player. Best case scenario, he's Krejci light and becomes a 200-foot menace at 2C. But in reality, he's probably hopping on Fraser Minten's wing when he does make a push to the NHL and becomes part of a true shutdown line with some offensive pop. Like, him and Minten together on a line feels like it'd be really frustrating to play against if Locmelis can hit that next level, which I'm not sure if he has in him. Again, I adore this guy. He does everything so well, so correctly. But the NHL is a different animal. I think he's a middle six guy in the NHL. I'm praying that's true, because I have loved watching his game for a very long time. Most likely he's a third liner. And most likely he ends up on the wing. I think he's best utilized at center. I think his mind is best utilized when he can run a transition and he has the most ice to cover and he can facilitate how he feels necessary. But they ask centers to do a lot at the NHL level. And whether or not he could truly be that guy is yet to be seen. But I love this player. I find him fascinating to watch. I find that whenever I'm watching him, I like to try to spot what he's going to do, and he fools me, man. He just fools me. He's not going to be gifted a role, but with the way he impresses coaches, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts hitting a hot streak, they're quick to be like, I don't know, maybe give this kid a look. He's really, really good. He doesn't have the draft pedigree either to just be like forced up in the lineup, but the Bruins don't really do that anyway, which, again, we'll talk about. And number 4, a name you're probably waiting to hear, Dean Letourneau. 19 years old, center, right wing, 6'7", 230 pounds. It's the reason that I put his height and weight without putting anyone else's, really. Because maybe you'll remember this guy. 2 years ago, he was drafted 25th? 25th. I want to say 25th. And he had a tough freshman year. And a lot of people said he was a bust immediately, which was silly. 0 goals, 3 assists in 36 games played as a freshman. Which, granted, is kind of fair how critical people got. Because how is that even possible, dude? But this year, so far, 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points in 13 games played. He's 3rd on BC's roster in points. When he was drafted, we said it's going to be a few years. It's going to be a 3 to 4 year process. Like, we knew that because he was going from what was basically a high-end middle school, like a competitive middle school league, to the NCAA. Growing pains were expected, sure. They were a little more severe than we thought they were going to be. And they were very harsh for Dean. The concern shifted at a certain point for me about this player from like, okay, how will physically he be able to advance? And then it was, is he going to be okay mentally? You go to BC and you suck. And you're in the lineup like every night and you suck. That's not easy. Imagine being an 18-year-old kid starting at a new school, first-round draft pick of a professional team, immediately popular for that reason, go to the sport and be ass. Do you know how hard it is for an 18-year-old to handle? I know me at 18, that would have been fucking difficult. He's rebounded so unbelievably well. He has clearly put in the work through last year and this offseason. He's bouncing back so freaking well. His skating ability is really strong. His skating ability for his size is downright silly. He's got a lethal shot, and the angle is confusing as hell for goaltenders. Please see Tage Thompson. He's tall as shit, and he's heavy, and he maneuvers really well. He's oddly flexible for a big guy. He can handle through a phone booth. There's so much to like about his game. Defensively, he's got the reach. There's a lot that still needs to get there. He's not a finished product. And again, it's not like he'll be in the NHL at the end of this year. He needs another year after this one. There's still more development to go. And maybe this is just a hot start. God, I hope it isn't. It doesn't look like one. The guy's been all over the ice. He's been one of the better guys in the lineup every night. Dean Letourneau is a real NHL prospect that deserves your attention. Check him out. And go look him up on Twitter. Look at some of his highlights. He's got a couple nice ones in there. Particularly his shot. God, his shot's so good. At number 3, I have Matthew Poitras. I probably should have explained at the beginning of the video, I wasn't going to talk about anybody who's in the lineup right now. That doesn't make any sense, like in the NHL lineup. And anyone who's like 25 or over doesn't really make sense to talk about either. Matthew Poitras is being treated like he's completely expendable at this point, and he's a bust and all this stuff. First of all, what round was he taken in? 3rd round? 4th? I can't even remember. You're not a bust. If you're a 3rd rounder and you've already played NHL games, you're certainly not a bust, right? I don't think that's fair. He's 21 years old. He's still developing. He's a center / right wing. He's 1, 7, and 8 in 16 games played. 1 goal, 7 assists. Currently in a slog. He has 1 goal and 1 assist in his last 10 games in Providence. And look, we've talked a lot about his need to keep his head up and avoid the big hits along the wall, but even with the offensive numbers not being what we had hoped so far this year, I think the reason we haven't seen him is pretty simple beyond that. He doesn't fit the style right now. The Bruins are trying to figure out exactly what they want to be. And they know what they want to be, but they're trying to figure out how best to do that. And they've found some success with it. Hopefully more tonight as we play the Sharks. But the Bruins are so focused on this, on winning board battles and playing physical defense and getting to the center of the ice in the O-zone. And I worry that they are kind of forgetting that Poitras has an ability to get the puck to players who go to the center ice. He has an ability to win those board battles when they're more of a skill match rather than a physical match, which, again, I understand the criticism there too. Look, to be fair, I wouldn't pull the guy out of a mire like this, out of the mud, and put him in the NHL while he's just trying to work his way out of a cold streak. But I have a lot of faith that Poitras can become a middle six playmaker with a decent defensive game at the NHL level. Whether that's at center or wing doesn't really concern me at this point. And it's nice to say that because right now, Elias, who I'm not the world's biggest fan of, but he's here for a while. Who's Nadinov, who looks like he should probably stay at the middle of the ice if we could keep him there. Fraser Minton, James Hagens, Dean Letourneau. You have guys developing down the middle. Matthew Poitras. If a couple of them end up on the wing, fine, man. Like, fine. I'm not saying we fixed our center problem. We still need a franchise 1C. And it remains to be seen whether Hagens can be that or not. But you don't have to keep him there. I like him there. You don't have to keep him there. Locmelis, didn't even think about him. I'm fine with Poitras. He's having a tough start to the year in the AHL. He's had some injury issues in the past. There's plenty to poke holes at. But give the guy some time while this team is playing a style that is more dependent on being heavy than it is on being skilled. The reason that I think Poitras and Lysell and Merkulov and some of these guys who are more skill-based haven't been pulled up is they don't fit the MO right now. And they're worried about having too many guys who don't fit that style. I don't think that's going to be long-term helpful, but for the short term, we're 20 games into the season, 23 tonight, 24 or something like that. Fine. Not a huge deal. The nice thing about having a team put together at the next level that's performing well enough, you don't feel forced to bring this guy up right away, especially when he's in the middle of a cold streak. But I still find him to be one of our most interesting prospects. And I do think it's a little unfair to just be like, this guy sucks, get him out of here at this point. 21 years old. Development is a long path, and it's a little weird. At number 2, we have everyone's favorite player, Fabian Lysell. He's interesting for a lot of reasons. First of all, 22-year-old right wing. He's got 6 goals, 6 assists in 13 games played. He's 4th in Providence for the team on scoring. He's +6 on the year. 13 games played. Well, Loke, they've played more than 13 games in Providence. Injury issues? No, not really. Although, yes, now. He has a lower body injury now. But he actually gets scratched. Yeah, he got pulled out of the lineup. He got benched. The coaching staff felt his effort wasn't there in all 3 zones. So he had to be benched. And now he's injured. His effort wasn't there in all 3 zones. He's a point-per-game player, but his effort wasn't there in all 3 zones. I get it. Look, I do. It would genuinely be difficult to find a prospect in the Bruins system more offensively gifted than Lysell, besides James Hagens. His skating stands above all, including Hagens. His shiftiness with the puck, offensive IQ, his vision along with the silky hands. Shoot, there's plenty to sit there and go, I love this guy, I want him on my team. He's a high-value prospect, and he's seen his value decline for years. But for years, the Bruins brass have spoken about his defensive game and the necessity of a 200-foot game. And just a reminder that this guy was drafted as an offensive zone player. He was drafted for his ability to create scoring opportunities. And all we've done since he got to Providence is criticize him for not being good enough defensively. There are 6 guys on the Bruins right now who aren't good defensively. I just find it so odd. And yes, I didn't like his camp this year. When he got sent down, I was one of the first ones to be, who's been a defender in the past, by the way. But this year, I was like, no, what do you expect? You have to grab this role. You know you're in the doghouse. You got to fight for it. And there's stuff about his attitude. There's all sorts of stuff. I'm not even saying the coaching staff is wrong. But the messaging that continues about we need this or that from him, and I'm like, that's not his game. And it's one thing to want him to be responsible in those certain ventures defensively, and a whole nother one to be like, if this isn't part of your game, then you're never going to get a shot at the next level. We don't care how offensively gifted you are. I don't know. I think the way they've handled Lysell is poor, to say the least. Am I fully defending Lysell and taking his responsibility out of this? No, absolutely not. I think that this is coming towards a messy breakup, and I really hope I'm wrong. But it does seem like that's the direction that everything's going, because there is such tantalizing skill there. There's so much to like. I I thought the Arvidsson injury was such a good opportunity to bring him up, but didn't work out that way. So we'll see what they want to do at the end of this year. I would be shocked if Lysell, healthy, never gets a shot this year with the big club. I think you just got to try it. I really do. I guess it more depends on where the Bruins are, though. If they're competitive and in a playoff spot, they probably don't want to bring him up in case he screws that up. But if they start to fade back and offense is part of that, you got to take a swing. He's very interesting. He's still very talented. I hope this lower body injury doesn't keep him out long because I just want to see something. Your number one, obviously, James Hagens, 19 years old, center left wing. 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points in 13 games played in his second year at BC. Playing a lot of time on the left wing. They've got this new top center that they really like. He's a great shot, excellent skater, nice vision, touch, can drive a line, heavily viewed as the Bruins' next real 1C, but the 2 NCAA years have been a letdown so far, if you can call a point-per-game player a letdown. Drafted 7th overall last year, we mostly expected him to go back to college for some seasoning, and I'm pretty glad he did. He's looked really good down there. He's tied for first on the team in points, is trusted in big moments, and is consistently one of the better-looking players out there. Sure, he doesn't look like the player that was expected to eventually go number 1 overall in his draft about a year prior to that, but I am really not worried about this guy. He's been really good, and I think he has 1C potential. Maybe not a top 5 in the league 1C, but a damn good one. I'm excited. There's a reason he fell to 7, right? That's why the Bruins were able to grab him. But the people panicking about him right now, come on. He's going to be likely in Boston at the end of the year. And once the college season ends. I'd be surprised if he wasn't, if healthy. I am not worried about James Hagens at all. And I think he has real potential to be a mainstay at 1C for this team for a very long time. Oh, I think we all think that. I think there's very few people who he's a bust. I've seen it, but I'd be surprised if he was. But yeah, number 1's not that interesting, I guess. But he's easily our most interesting prospect. We're very excited about him. But so the list again, from top to bottom. I have Hagens, I have Lysell, I have Poitras. Letourneau, Locmelis, Zellers, Moore, Yemelyanov, Simpson, Blanar, Johannson, and then Vashek and DiPietro. Again, the ordering doesn't matter that much, but these are guys I kind of wanted to touch on, just give an update of where they were so far this year, and remind everyone that right now, look, we're not going to be top 10 or top 15 in any prospect rankings, but we do have real prospects on our team, or in our system, I should say. Not too shabby. Go Bees. Go Bees! Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video and joining me as we experience this crazy Bruins season together. The names popping up on your screen now are from the top line tier and the all-star tier of the YouTube membership program for this YouTube channel. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you who help support the channel so that we can do more fun things, and I am always open to more ideas of how I can help give back to those who support the channel. At the end of the day, this channel is always going to be about the community, and I want to continue to grow that way, so please always feel free to reach out with new ideas and fun ways we can expand on this, or if you just need someone to talk to, I'm always here for you guys. Thank you all for your support, and as always, Go Bees!